Hello everyone, welcome back to Fablehaven, the chronological story of Iratus. Today, we will be progressing the timeline and answering a simple question. What happened after Iratus was felled? As you all know, a millennium ago, Iratus launched his assault upon the living world. His assault ultimately ended in defeat at the hands of the four heroes, and I would like to refer to this time period that follows as the Golden Era of the Living, because let's be honest, it all goes downhill from here for them. Before we get to that, however, what happened to the Necromancers Guild? Thankfully, we know the guild's fate thanks to two creation descriptions. First is the only time the Necromancers Guild is mentioned directly by name, the Wraith. Despite the seeming simplicity of this minion, its summoning has been prohibited by the Necromancers Guild since the dawn of history. Not even Iratus remembers the reason for this decree, but there are many dark rumors surrounding this particular summoning. It is said that the very first necromancer created this minion as a vessel for his rebirth, or that the soul that answers the necromancer's call comes not from the afterlife, but from another, much more alien place. Nobody seemed to have had the courage to put these theories to the test, or maybe those that did never survived the process. Still, the guild has been nothing but ruins for millennia. It is now up to Iratus to decide what to do with this knowledge. By the way, the Wraith Soul is definitely an eldritch abomination, and I cannot be convinced otherwise. Kasogtha is love, Kasogtha is life. As for Iratus' followers, their grim fates, along with some specificities, are revealed by the Unfrozen. In the cold north, there is little life, and death is quick to cull the weak. Here the last remaining necromancers made their home after their craft became forbidden, gathering any that escaped the persecutions. They labored, trying to survive, but without resources they were quickly dying out. Thus they attempted to walk down the only path available to them, becoming undead. As the years went on, their minds and bodies were eroded in the frozen wastes until they sank beneath the ice, yearning to feast upon the living. Unlike Iratus, they had not truly mastered death, and thus were consumed by it. But it does not mean that their legacy will be forgotten. Through their death, they had created the curse of the Unfrozen, and the great necromancer has finally managed to unleash it upon the world. Fitting that his colleagues would serve him one last time. It is no surprise that those who had survived Iratus' war against the living did their utmost to stamp out necromantic study, but there was one who took it one step farther, the Paladin hero, who sought to stamp out all forms of darkness. The Paladin was the one who founded the order that was meant to watch the human lands, or at least what would later become the Order, initially started as a holy brotherhood. He was affable and good-natured, always willing to see the best in people, and likely never anticipating how far his countrymen would fall in the future. It was his unyielding spirit that the Band of Four was founded upon. The Paladin hero's founding of the Holy Brotherhood elevated humanity as the busybody leaders of a new era of peace, but the humans could not oversee the reconstruction of Iratus' devastation alone. That is where the dwarves come in. Often the bookkeeper of the group, the dwarf took care of the mundane stuff that keeps a party going. From cooking to maintaining weapons and armor, with an impressive amount of skills, including trap making and combat, he is a strong and dependable ally. After defeating Iratus, he spent the rest of his life as a brewer, far outliving his companions. In the end, the dwarven hero spent his retirement truer than any dowie, surrounded by ale, gold, and relative peace. But this was a time of great change for the dwarven people, most of which is described in second-floor humanorium tokens. Most importantly, the reconstruction efforts were an opportunity for dwarven traders to earn so much gold and prestige that they would come to rival the dwarven nobility, and I have no doubt that such a renowned bookkeeper as the dwarven hero would dabble in such affairs. This vast accumulation of wealth allowed the advancement of the Alchemists Guild, who would eventually come to usurp the once respected Geomancers Guild, and lead the dwarves towards a bright, new future. With humanity leading the charge and the dwarves focusing on reconstruction, what exactly were the elves doing at this critical juncture? Well, no one really knows. The elven hero was, ironically, the shortest lived amongst the heroes. The most bellicose of the four, the elf was also their best tactician. She would have likely outlived all of her compatriots had she chosen a life of peace, but an endless hunger for war and adventure led her to more and more danger, where she could not rely on her comrades in arms. Without a representative, it seems as though the elves isolated themselves and sought only to deal with internal affairs. We only really know two things about them. Thanks to the Elven Scout token, we know that the elves protected their small population with a heavily militaristic tradition. A tradition that I am sure Iratus' assault aided in solidifying. Thanks to the Shadow Elf's description that was read last video, we also know that some of the elven druids had dabbled in dark magic, which splintered a portion of elven society. Perhaps Iratus accidentally assisted in creating this world's dark elves, but that covers the 3 races from the 4 heroes. Yet, there was one more. One who had not forgotten that Iratus could not truly be slain. The mage hero. Always reserved and enigmatic, the mage of the party possessed truly prodigious magical talent. Ever secretive about the source of his knowledge, he seemed an outsider even in the band, and after Iratus was defeated, did not partake in the celebrations. Instead, he began building for the future, preparing and training others, claiming the necromancer might one day return. The mage hero's precaution for Iratus' inevitable return was the Adept, a hero that we encounter within the 6th floor graveyard. After Iratus was defeated and imprisoned, the 4 heroes enjoyed sickeningly happy lives. Yet the caster among them went out of the way to establish some precautions for the future, training an Adept. Unmatched spellcasters, each Adept would be a steward of their own generation before teaching another Adept and passing down the mantle. Their line was cut short long before Iratus managed to escape, but through divine will, they are back to fight him none the less. The mage hero's legacy reminds me so much of Warcraft's Guardian of Tirisfal that I cannot help but suspect that the mage's secretive source of knowledge and power was demonic, or at the very least dark, in nature, although his soul was still exalted, so I'll leave that up to debate. In the end, the living races of the world pursued their hard-won future with sickening joy. Humans largely banded together to dispel the lingering darkness and prevent another future threat on the scale of Iratus. The dwarves utilized their mastery of trade and craft to spring forward the world's technology, and the elves stabilized their ancestral homelands. Probably. But seasons change, and heroes die. The Holy Brotherhood would one day become the Order, and the Order would one day become a blight upon the land. However, that, along with the Alchemist Guild's future, is a story for the next video. A fun side fact, sometime during this boring era of peace, there might have been an attempt at unsealing Iratus, something Iratus himself ponders upon the construction of the excavation site.
How did these bodies wind up here, I wonder? Was there an effort to set me free sometime in the past? Regardless, these remains will be used as fuel for my growing army.
Did fragments of the Necromancer's Guild manage to survive? Or was there yet another force involved that sought the Supreme Necromancer's power? Impossible to say, but is a fun thought. Thanks for watching, and a special thanks to the patrons and YouTube members who support the channel. See you next Sunday to discuss the fall of this golden era in a time period that we know well. The return of Iratus. Bye!